What's up, everybody? Enosh here, and today we're talking about The Last Jedi, and we're talking about an article that was put out by Esquire magazine online about Mark Hamill, and I'll just read you their title for it. It says, Mark Hamill explains why all the trolls are wrong about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Before we get into this, I just want to talk about this. I mean, The Last Jedi has been such a divisive movie. And, people either really, really love it or they really, really hate it. It seems there's no in between. And people feel very strongly about it. Now, a lot of you know already, I loved The Last Jedi. That's me. I love The Last Jedi. I don't make any bones about it. I thought it was a great movie. I appreciated what happened. I thought it was a breath of fresh air. And I didn't have a problem with the way that they treated Luke Skywalker in that movie. I didn't have a problem with the movie in general. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was well written, well thought out. Obviously, not everybody feels that way, and they don't feel the same way that I do. And I can appreciate that. And I have many conversations, and literally every day, people that I work with, people that I see out and about, people online especially. I mean, people send me messages every day. I'm part of actually a couple of groups that are private groups that we talk about The Last Jedi, and we have talked about it very much. It started off as a Last Jedi debrief, and then turned into a Star Wars debrief, just talking about Star Wars in general. But I talk about this movie a lot, and because of that, I have very similar discussions with a lot of people. And so, unfortunately, and this is why I want to start off with this, because last week, Tiffany and I did a video regarding Lucasfilm and Disney putting the new Star Wars standalone movies on hold because of the backlash of The Last Jedi. And I was very upset in that video. And I mentioned something. I mentioned a discussion that I had with somebody, and I did not mean it to be some big deal. I didn't mean it to be something that would be offensive to anybody. And the person that I actually had that discussion with, although I wouldn't mention their name to out them in front of everybody, I know that they would have no problem with the fact that I said and repeated what they said. Unfortunately, I had a very similar conversation with another friend of mine that I care a lot about. And we're not very super close, but we're friends, and I consider him a friend, and we have a lot of similar interests. And the thing is, I would never do anything to hurt this person, and I would never do anything to just call out this person and misrepresent what he said. Unfortunately, the two things that these people said were very, very similar. They both mentioned the fact that they both liked one of the new sequel movies and loved one of the other ones, like Rogue One, meaning Rogue One and The Force Awakens. So they liked one, and then really, really liked one, and they loved the other one, but they hated The Last Jedi. The difference is one friend said that they would never go see another Star Wars movie because of The Last Jedi, which I think is ridiculous. The other friend said that they were boycotting Solo going on opening weekend because of The Last Jedi, and that's their prerogative, and they have every right to do that. I disagreed with that, and him and I had a conversation about it, and I said I think it's kind of silly, and I still think it's kind of silly, but I would never say anything to offend that person because of it, and I wouldn't misrepresent what they said. So when I shared my story, unfortunately, this friend thought that I was talking about him. And I was not. And I didn't register that when I was talking. I mean, we were doing a video shoot live, and I didn't register that other conversation because I had one in mind. And so for that, I would like to say to that person, I hope that you watch this. I'm sending you a message. I hope that you watch this video and understand that that is not my heart, man. We can have conversations about Star Wars and other things, and I don't take it personally, and I would never misrepresent something that you said, and I hope that you understand that and that you believe me, because I honestly would not do that to you, man. And so, like I said, this movie is it's become very divisive amongst the Star Wars community. That being said, let's get back to this article, okay? And I'm just going to kind of read this article to you. It says, the Luke Skywalker we saw in The Last Jedi was not the bright-eyed boy we were introduced to in A New Hope. He wasn't even the hero we saw at the end of the original trilogy. No, this Luke Skywalker had, gasp, changed in the last 35 years since we last saw him, as people tend to do. A fact that a loudmouth minority of troll fans like used to criticize the movie. I don't go as far as to call people trolls or whatnot. I think that they're not real fans. I just think that they're reading a lot into The Last Jedi that's just not there, and but that's my opinion. Many of these fans leading the movement to remake The Last Jedi, and we talked about that last week, don't seem to believe that a man who watched evil triumph again and his nephew/pupil become an evil murderer would change his outlook on life even a little bit. In a new interview with IGN, Mark Hamill explains that he based his character arc on what he's observed in real life. And now this is Mark Hamill talking, Luke Skywalker himself. And there's been so much controversy about Mark Hamill and some of the things that he says. But when he used the term, he said, "Though this is not my Luke." It's because it wasn't what he pictured. Just as many of the fans, this is not what they pictured Luke Skywalker to be so many years later. He has since said that he wishes he had never said that. Now, there's the cynical people who say, "Oh, Disney's just put the thumb on him and they're making him say that." I don't think that Mark Hamill has reason to have to retract anything, in my opinion. But it says, this is Mark Hamill talking. "It is tragic. I'm not a method actor, but one of the techniques a method actor will use is to try and use real-life experiences to relate to whatever fictional scenario he's involved in. The only thing I could think of, given the screenplay that I read, was that I was of the Beatles generation. All you need is love, peace, and love. I thought at that time when I was a teenager, by the time we get in power, there will be no more war, there will be no more racial discrimination, and pot will be legal. So I'm 1 for 3. When you think about it, my generation," meaning Mark Hamill's, "is a failure. The world is unquestionably worse now than it was then." Then it says, "How about that? People tend to become cynical when exposed to the repeated failures of humanity. Wouldn't it be kind of weird if Luke Skywalker hadn't changed at all in 35 years? In what reality do Star Wars fans live where people exist in a state of arrested development and fail to mature emotionally past a young adult?" Oh, wait, is what it says. Okay, so let's kind of dissect that. People change, and I understand this idea. Trust me, I was kind of right there with you leading up to The Last Jedi, thinking, man, I want to see Luke Skywalker go out there. I want to see him as a Jedi Master, man, just tearing it all down, wiping out whole armies with the Force, not even being affected by anything, being so powerful like a superhero. Man, that's Luke Skywalker. And when I watched The Last Jedi, I realized something. That wasn't realistic. Putting all this pressure on Luke to be this superhero of sorts wasn't realistic. And I look at Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I look at Yoda and the failures that they made in the prequels, and they both went into hiding. It's kind of what Jedi do. When they have to face their own failures, they go into hiding. And a lot of us, ladies and gentlemen, when we face failures, we go into hiding. And I think this article has hit the nail on the head when talking about the fact when we're faced with the failures of humanity, I think it would be strange if Luke Skywalker hadn't changed at all in the 35 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. There's a long time between Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi. There's a long time, and a lot of stuff happened there. And people say, "Oh, well, Luke would never try to kill his nephew." Well, the thing is Luke had faced unquestionable evil before. And yes, when he was younger, when we're in our late teens, early 20s, boy, we think we could take on the world, and we see the world so optimistically sometimes. And then real life settles in, and I think it was very well portrayed that he saw in Ben this potential for so much evil and so much hurt, and he had that moment of doubt and weakness to think, if I eradicate this now, it'll stop it. I think about us, ladies and gentlemen. How many times do we have that moment of weakness, that moment of doubt, where maybe you've made decisions in your life that, changed the entire course of your life or changed the way your relationships with other people, because it killed the relationship between him and Ben at that point in that movie. But it hits home. That story really hits home, because how many times have we done something in our weakness or our just moment of doubt and fear? And that's the dark side. That's the dark side portrayed there. Now, you may not know this, but I'm a pastor, and I look at this situation like this. I talk to so many people on a daily basis who have had those moments of weakness, and it affects their relationships with their family, their loved ones, friends, other people, and between them and God. And then I look at that character of Luke Skywalker, and he did redeem himself. And for people to say, well, he just died as a grumpy old man, he didn't. He was changed at the end. He came back. Yes, he wasn't there physically, but he used an amazing power, amazing force power at the end to project himself across the galaxy, something we had never seen another Jedi do. And what an amazing end. And I hope that we see more of Luke Skywalker, either Force Ghost or otherwise. I hope that we see it. But hey, I wanted to share this story with you. What do you think of this story about Mark Hamill saying that that people are wrong about Luke Skywalker in this movie? Do you take it at face value? Do you think that Mark Hamill is being open about the character, or do you just think that it's Disney forcing him to say something? I tend to think that it's just from his heart, and I hope that it is. But hey, leave your comment down in the comment section. Hey, if this is your first time here, please why don't you hit that subscribe button, because we like to talk about a lot of fun stuff here on the channel. We like to talk about movies and TV shows and things we like, comics and superheroes and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And so I would love for you to be here and be a part of this community. And by community, I mean that, man. I would love your comments down in the comment section. I would love to know what you think about this story, and share with me, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. And hey, if you're my friend who we had a little bit of an issue yesterday, like I said, I am very sorry about that, and I hope that you accept my apology, and that we can work together for good going forward. And I welcome your opinions and your thoughts here on the channel. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope to see more of you in the future, and until next time, may the Force be with you, and be good to one another. And hey, don't let this movie just divide you. Okay, love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.